Okay, my name's Bridget. I'm a nurse here at Residex, and you are Lydia?
Yes.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Bridget.
Have you worked with Rtasks previously?
Yes, I worked with Rtask before, but as an aide. The time I worked with it.
All right. I am actually going to open up our demonstration database here, and I'm going to share my screen. So let's see here. Are you able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to log into your campus because I don't want to mess up the information in there. I'm just going to do my demonstration database here and show you a few things. So have you had a chance to look at any of the assessment items that we have in the system?
Yes, I've actually worked on some things in the system.
Okay. I'm just going to choose a fake resident here. These are all fake residents. So you will notice you'll have a few different subsets in your actual campus, but when you go to do the assessment, the first one that you'll do, if you have somebody that's going to be moving in, will be a prospect. That will be somebody that's, maybe thinking about coming to your facility. And for them, you would do a pre-admission assessment. And so you would go through those items. If they end up moving to your facility and they are changed to a resident, those items will flow through to their admission assessment. So you won't have to redo everything. Sorry, I need to go back to assessments here. Then the admission assessment is obviously what you're going to be starting with if they are being admitted to your facility. And with your current residents that you have the option, you can do the admission assessment. I know that you've probably done them already either in a different system or on paper. So once you get, you can choose to either put the assessment in right away, or if you want to wait until their assessment is actually coming due to put that in, that's up to you, because I know that you have several residents do you work at all three facilities?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that you will be very busy, so it's up to you if you want to start putting in the assessments right away. If you do, it will create the care plan. Care plan is pushed out after you complete the assessment. It also, the assessment also creates the individual abuse prevention plan and the individual medication management plan. So all three of those things are created just with completing the assessment. So that's kind of nice that you don't have to go in and do those separately. So the admission assessment here, I'm just going to click Start Assessment here, and you'll see these are the categories that are in the admission assessment. These are the things that you'll have to click into and complete for your residents. And then down here, these are links that you'll be able to quickly click on if you needed to see specific information while you're doing the assessment. So I could quickly click on diagnoses here, and I can see this resident's current list of diagnoses, or even their allergies, their medications, their current services. So it's kind of nice that you don't have to go and look somewhere else for those while you're doing the assessment. They are right here. You'll start at the top and you'll click into, if you're in the admission assessment, service initiation. That's going to be why they are in assisted living. The other thing I really want to point out right away is you don't need to check every single box in the assessment. You only need to check what pertains to the resident. So you don't need to fill in every single thing. So you'll go through, and if you choose, like if there is, support network, you would want to select from the list, and then you can also click add note or edit note if you wanted to free type any additional information. And then to go to the next category, you can either down at the bottom, it will have you click ADLs next, or if you click home, it's just going to take you back to this main page on the assessment. The big thing I want to point out with the ADL needs, if you choose, if your resident is independent with a service like bathing or dressing, that's fine. You don't need to put an additional note. However, if they need help, then you will need to, if you check a box saying they need help or assistance with something, you always want to enter a note and put exactly what they need help with. And that is creating your individual abuse prevention plan. And same with all of these ADLs. If it's anything other than independent, you need a note as to what kind of help they need. You'll see here when I have these boxes clicked here that this resident needs some help, I can see this blue link that says show related services, and I can see what services are available. So if I have not, this is not on their current services, I can add it from here. So if I'm saying they need help with bathing, I can put in a bathing assistance service, and that will populate for staff to do. So I can click add to schedule here and schedule it right from this screen. And I can put when the active date and time, this is just when it's going to become active for staff to see on their to-do list. This is not the date and time we're scheduling it for. So it will become active today. If there was an end date, which you really wouldn't put for most services, you could put an optional end date in here if it pertained for a specific service. And then I should ask first, have you been scheduling services at all? Are you familiar with the different, how to schedule services?
Yeah, we've been scheduling them.
Okay. So then you probably know the difference then. The specific time would be obviously a certain time, and then simplified time would be like AM, PM, overnight. Specific time is gonna obviously populate for staff to do at that specific time. If you choose AM, PM, overnight, that will give them the whole shift to complete that service. So like, if it's something such as meal assistance, you probably want those to be more specific times, whereas charting on a behavior service, you would maybe just want to put AM, PM, overnight so they can monitor for those behaviors throughout the shift and then document once at the end of the shift. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, so then you would choose which provider you are assigning this to. I'm just gonna say we're gonna choose this 8 a.m. and this will be assigned to the HHA, and bathing assistance, maybe we'll choose weekly. I'm gonna say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then you would obviously type in your note exactly what they need help with. Whatever your instruction is to the staff there, and then you would save that, and it will actually put it right on their services from the assessment. So it's kind of nice, you're kind of doing two things at once. Then you're doing the assessment and you can add services if you need to. You'll go through and obviously, like I said, just choose the ones that pertain. You don't need to click every box and write something in, just what pertains for that resident. And as you're going through, there's a couple things I want to point out in the different sections here that are very important to answer. I believe it's independent living. A couple things that the state really wants to see answered for everyone. They want to know if the resident has a POLST or a healthcare directive. So they do want this box checked, and they do want to know, I mean, if they don't have one, then I just, like I have typed here as an example, none on file, or you could put, you know, copy scanned into resident profile or copy on hand, whatever, you know, you want to put there. And then this box here where it says, are there any restrictions to the residents' rights regarding visitors, social participation, personal and treatment privacy, or access to food? So, like if you have a memory care facility where there are restrictions to the residents' rights, because obviously in a memory care facility, usually there are locked doors and that type of thing. You'll want to check this box for each resident and put if there are any restrictions. You know, if there's locked doors in a memory care unit, you're going to want to put that in here. If the refrigerator is locked for some reason, you'll put that in here. Anything that is a restriction to the resident, you'll want to make note of here. Other things that the state likes to see, especially in the medication section, we have actually put an asterisk at the beginning of each question that they have been wanting to see answered. So if there's an asterisk here, I would go in and answer those questions and then put a note, you know, regarding that resident. Any questions so far?
No.
Then as we're going through, again, you'll see some of these have that asterisk, so I would definitely encourage you to answer all of those. And let me look here. I think that's a safety one that I also wanted. They're wanting to see what the residents' emergency response is. Are they able to, you know, independently activate the emergency system if they need to? Are they able to evacuate or leave the facility in the event of an emergency, or do they need help? So you'll want to answer these two things for every resident as well. Any vulnerabilities, anything like that. And then once you're done, I really like the fall risk assessment because it pulls from your actual things that you're entering into your assessment. It will show you here, it's pulling their age, it'll count their diagnoses, any prior falls that have been entered, if it's checked on the assessment that they have any incontinence issues, that will be a score on the fall risk assessment. Visual impairment, if they need any help moving, or environmental hazards. They have 4 or more medications, and it tells you at the bottom what their total score is, and it says a score of 4 or more is considered to be at risk for falling. So then I would check this box that says, you know, the resident is at risk of falling, and then actions taken to minimize risk of falling, and then I would add a note and put in here the things that we have in place to minimize falls.
Okay.
And then once you're assessed, you have all of your categories completed as you want them. Down here at the bottom, you can select the next assessment date, and you know, if it's just going to be your every 90-day assessment, you can click 90 days and the system will calculate the next date that will be due, and you can put a note in here if you want, 90-day assessment. And then you can mark it as complete. And then you'll be able to, if I go back to that resident, I can click on her assessment history, and it'll tell me the dates that I did the assessments. It'll tell me if there's a reason that was entered, and I can add a note from here. So if you enter an assessment and for some reason it's late, you can add a note and maybe put something, you know, put the reason in as to why it was completed late. Maybe they were in the hospital and so you weren't able to complete it on the day it was due. So you can add a note here. So that's kind of nice. The system will mark this date completed as the date you click that button to close the assessment or mark it as completed. We are not able to backdate assessments at all, so that's why this note field is nice if you need to add a note for some reason.
Okay, before you continue.
What?
Before you continue, I tried doing some assessments and completed them, but when we tried to check to see them, we couldn't see them as complete. So.
Oh, okay, let me go to your. Do you remember who you did them on?
Yeah, there is Essay and Jesse. Yep, that one.
All right, so it looks like they were completed here. So it has yesterday, and if you click print here, it will pull up the actual assessment.
Okay.
And then a report I want to show you to make sure that you are hitting everything you need to for the individual abuse prevention plan that's required. If we click on reports, and I'm going to type in individual abuse prevention plan, you'll be able to double check and make sure you have everything that's required. If you create the report and you'll pull it up here, it'll show you everything that you marked in the assessment that is considered a vulnerability. And then you want to just double check on the right hand side. You want to make sure that there is a note entered for each one of these, and this looks wonderful. There's only a couple that you'll need to enter a note for. So like where it says needs verbal cues, you'll have to put a note in here and just add a note to exactly what you want staff to do.
Okay.
And then same for the case management and housekeeping, you'll just need to add a note. And for the med management. So this is a nice report, the individual abuse prevention plan. If you pull that up, you'll be able to see which ones you still need to go in and make a comment for.
Okay.
And then for your residents here, we go to assessments. Anything after the admission assessment is going to be the clinical update. That's what your every 90-day assessment, or if they have a change in condition and you need to update their assessment, it'll always be that clinical update that is going to be the one that's completed.
What about if they come back like from a doctor's visit, we still do it under clinical update?
Only if there's been a significant change in their condition. If you're needing to add more cares for the resident, then I would complete the clinical update. If they go to the doctor and come back and they're not needing any more cares, you wouldn't need to do the clinical update. If they're in the hospital, however, I would always do a clinical update even if their cares did not change when they came home, because there was a change in their condition that required them to be hospitalized. So then you would just open up that clinical update. If you didn't need to make any changes, that's okay, but you would still want to open it up, review everything, and then mark it as complete so that when the state comes, they know that you did go in and assess the needs when they returned from the hospital. But just a clinic appointment, not necessarily.
Okay.
And then the discharge and transfer is obviously if they're leaving your facility, you would do that discharge or transfer assessment. Relocation plan, this is if you have a resident that you are evicting. If you're terminating them for whatever reason, then you would need to complete this relocation plan because the state is wanting to know what the plan is for the resident once they leave your facility. Individual review, you probably don't really need to complete this one for the residents. This one is for a lot of facilities that have independent living residents where maybe they just have housekeeping services and they don't actually need a physical assessment. That's what the individual review is for. You can always go and maybe I wanted to look, if I wanted to update maybe a vaccine or something in the assessment, I could go and click review or edit details, and it will allow me to go in and review and edit these details, but you never want to do that if you're changing something that's written in here. I would only use that if you're going to add a vaccine. Otherwise, if you're going to be changing anything in here, I would do the clinical update. So when you go back in for this resident to update that, update those categories that need a note here, okay. I would do the clinical update and I would do it that way. Are you familiar with how to set up and review medications in the system here?
Yes.
Okay, so I did turn on the dosage box configuration yesterday. Jama had told me that you guys get the bubble packs that have the pills all in one bubble for a single dose. So in order for that to show up properly, you'll come here and do the setup and review medications, and you can choose your date range. However, if you do it for, if you do it for a month at a time or 2 weeks at a time, you'll choose your resident. It'll show their medications, and you'll click on each one, and then you can click that you are reviewing all of these. It'll mark it as set up and reviewed. I'm gonna take my name off of here, obviously. I'm not gonna do this for your residents, but this is where you'll come, and then it will be marked that you reviewed the medications for the resident. And you'll wanna do that for each resident, each time you get medications from the pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And then are you familiar with the other things under here, the medication sent out of facility? If you have a resident that is going to be leaving, maybe they're going to stay with family for a couple days and you will be setting up medications to send with them. Are you familiar with that?
We can
How
go
to do
through
that
it.
In our system?
We can still go through it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I apologize. I have this thing that's beeping on my computer and I'm gonna turn that off real quick. Okay. So if I have a resident that will be leaving for maybe a couple days, I'm gonna choose this date range here. Maybe they're leaving Friday and then they're gonna come home on Sunday, come back on Sunday. And I'll choose the resident. And I'm gonna undo this so it's not gonna be actually in your system, but I just wanna show you. It gives us our resident here and all of her scheduled medications. So I can choose which ones I'm going to be sending out of the facility with her. Maybe I'm gonna send all 3 days, I can choose all. And you'll go through and pick which medications you're sending out. Maybe if it's only a certain dose or a certain day, you can choose which ones. And then if you click this print report when you're done choosing which medications you're sending out of the facility, this will bring up a really nice report that will have your facility information here, the resident, and then it'll have the date and times of her scheduled medications. So you can print out 2 copies. You can have whoever's taking these medications, if it's the resident, she can sign, or if it's maybe a family member that you're giving the medications to, they can sign and say that they're receiving those medications, and then you or whichever staff is sending those out can sign and date here, and you can have a copy of that for your records so that it's nice to show that these medications were sent out. Any medications that's being marked as being sent out of the facility will not show up for staff to give on that date and time. The facility will know that it is that it's been marked as being out of the facility, so it won't show up for staff to give. Same thing if she were to, we'll say that maybe she came back early and they didn't give the dose of medications for Sunday, you would need to make that available for your staff to give. So you would come back under clinical, go to medication sent out of facility. You'll choose the dates that you need to have that medication available for. And when you come, oh, I chose the wrong one, sorry. When you come back to her profile, you'll be able to see, why did that not do that? You'll see here the green dots, so you can see which medications were marked as being sent out of the facility. And then you can uncheck whichever dose it is that you'll be giving at the facility and leave the ones that she actually took while she was gone. You'll leave those ones checked. And I'm just gonna undo them all right now so that it's not marked in your system. But does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. The other thing for receiving medications, if the pharmacy sends you the medications, we have facilities that do this two ways. There are some facilities that document every single medication that is received by the pharmacy, and that's fine, although you don't necessarily need to do that. And most facilities document controlled medications that come into the facility. So you'll choose whichever resident it is. And if they don't have a pharmacy entered, you'll get this note here, and you should enter a pharmacy for each of the residents. Are you familiar with where to go for that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, it looks like pretty much all of the residents will need to have the pharmacy selected, but you'll choose which medication you're receiving in, and you can view if you've already had a count. You'll be able to see what the count is here. Otherwise, you can document here how many the pharmacy has sent you. Maybe they sent you 30 of them, and you can enter any note, and then you'll click save. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to mess up your system. But that's how you'll update the medication counts, by adding the medications that you receive from the pharmacy. And like I said, it's up to you and JAMA if you want to record all medications that you receive from the pharmacy or only those controlled substances. And then I'm gonna click back because I'm not gonna save that. Under clinical here, medication counting, if you have a resident that has controlled medications, it's only going to show here for medication counting. Like this will be like if you guys have your staff do a narcotic count every shift. I'm not sure if you do that, but a lot of facilities do.
Yeah.
It'll only show the residents here that actually have a controlled substance on their list. So what I always tell everybody, start at the top, choose the resident here. If you require that the staff has a witness, two staff do the count. So I'm logged in, I would have you as my witness put in your username for the system here and your password. We don't need to have, I don't need to log out and have you log in. You would just put your username and password here, and then together we would count and put in the number of pills that we have here.
That's what I told him.
And then we would click save count, and then we could go to the
Check it again in an hour.
Did you have a question?
No, it was just one of the staff was telling me about something emergency.
Oh, okay, okay.
30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, checking in 30 minutes after water. Okay.
Are you familiar with how to set up appointments, like an appointment reminder in the system for a resident?
Yes.
Okay.
The other question I had, so here we usually do the scheduled assessments usually on admission, 14-day and 90-day. So for the 14-day assessment, it's not very detailed like the 90-day assessment. So do we have to do the same very things of the 90-day in Rtask? For the 14-day assessment?
There, with the new regulations that went into effect in August, you only have to do that admission so the admission assessment is due within 14 days if you have a pre-admission assessment that was completed. Otherwise, the admission assessment is now due the day that they move in, and then you wouldn't need to do the 14-day, it would just go to the 90-day.
Okay.
But yes, it would still be that clinical update.
Okay.
And then you can enter your reason here. When you do your clinical update, it can be either, 90-day assessment or significant change in condition would be usually the two most common reasons. Or when you go in to update those areas that need to be updated on, like this one, for example, you can just put assessment update or, whatever you want to write for that.
Okay, the other question about medication. So, because we usually have like one aide in each house for residents, so they do both the medication and the services. Before the Rtask, I used to see one person does the services, the other does the medication. Are you going to create it in such a way that they are able to chart both the medication and services at the same time?
Okay, so if we choose, say I'm working here today, you were wondering about...
Because when we try to check through, we're seeing the scheduled medications. So what about the PRNs, or they have to go to the other side of other services?
Oh, for for giving a PRN medication?
Mm-hmm.
So there's two ways that they can document. If they're already giving, maybe I'm giving Robert this, the 9 o'clock medications, and he asks for a PRN, I can go down here to PRN medications and document it from here. Or if it's not during a medication pass and somebody just asks for a medication, I will click, while I'm on the Today screen, I'll click this plus more. And over here, they can click chart PRN medication, and they'll choose, their resident, which medication it is. I'm not going to document this. And then, they'll pull up their medication here. They'll verify that, enter their reason. I'm just going to do that as an example, and I'm not going to chart this. And then this is going to schedule a 60-minute follow-up for them to evaluate the effectiveness of that medication. And then they can choose, if I'm in the 14th Avenue house, obviously that will be the one that I'm assigning that to. And then I would click administered. Same thing if they do, and I'm not saving this, if they do a service for a resident that's not scheduled, they would go to the Today plus more, and then they can do chart an unscheduled or PRN service. Like maybe, if they give a shower a day early or something, they could come here and do that.
Okay, so we put back to the service plan. I put a symptom screen for COVID as the symptom screen one. Was that the right one for the COVID, or?
You should do both of them for the COVID, symptom screen 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because our system only allows us to put so many questions in a single service, we had to create 2 of them.
Okay.
Also, I forgot to show you this. Because the nurse is required to review any PRN medications given, review medications that have been declined, and then review medications that were sent out of the facility. And you can do that by clicking on Today and Plus More. And over here under medications, this is where you would go to review administered PRN medications, review declined meds, and review medications that were sent out of facility. And then you can look at those, and there would be a blue button here for you to click Reviewed.
Okay.
On your login report that you see when you first log in, I'm going to hide the sections here quick. Let me see if we have any here. I can add a report here if you want to show you any PRN medications that were not reviewed yet, so you know if you have some to go in and look at if you'd like.
Is it possible to set up, like, say, a pop-up message or put it under tasks? Like, I know I have to do it, like to keep you just not to forget, or that kind of thing, like pop-up.
Yes.
Under
Yes. So if you go to Today and Plus More, and you can click New Task and type, we can click Other, and you could create yourself a task. Review PRN meds. And then you can assign it to yourself. And if you want me to create one that pops up like every once a week for you, I can create that. Otherwise, you would have to go in and create a new one each week to remind yourself. Do you want me to create one for you that reoccurs every week?
Yes, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note here because that's something I'll have to do, and I can get that done for you. What day of the week would you like me to assign that for you?
Friday would be good.
Friday, okay.
So still under the tasks of the nurse, say for example the medication counting and looking at the LOAs or what, are you still able to create those pop-ups too? Because I usually do them weekly.
Yeah, so review the counts.
Yes, the counts and
Med count. Yep. Okay, so we'll do review med count, review PRN, review declined meds, and review meds sent out of facility. Any other reminders you'd like me to create for you?
the blood pressures and the BGs too.
Oh, that is actually something, let me show you here on a resident. Do you know which a resident in particular that has, scheduled blood glucose or blood pressures? Do they all have scheduled blood pressures?
That one has, both of them. Kenneth has. Right.
Okay. So on the service plan, I forgot to mention this. If we have something that is ordered by the doctor, like checking the blood glucose, that is, or anything like ACE wraps or TED stockings, anything that could be considered a treatment, you then also have to have what's called a supervisory service for the nurse to do. And that's just like what you mentioned, reviewing those blood pressures, reviewing the blood glucose, and the ones for like ACE wraps or TED stockings, you would have one, and that would be reviewing whether they are helping the resident, reviewing, if the doctor needs to be updated. So when you do add new service, if I start typing supervision, so these are all supervision ones that you should go in and assign, like supervision of the recorded blood glucose. And if you do this once a week on Fridays, then we could just say you're going to do this maybe in the AM, and then you can assign it to yourself for whichever campus that you want to have that completed for. and then you'll save it. Well, first you should, put instructions in here. If you're the only nurse, it's probably, you probably don't need to put super specific instructions, but if there's ever another nurse that fills in for you or comes in, you'll want instructions in here so that nurse knows exactly what they need to do with this service.
Okay.
And where that will show up is on the Today screen. And I didn't save that because I don't want to have my name attached to your things. On the Today screen, you can choose which RN provider here, and then you'll have those. So I'm not sure why this one is assigned to the RN. The record oxygen saturation, that should probably be assigned to the unlicensed staff. So that's for Robert. Let's see here. So if I go to his service plan and I click on schedule, I can see which things have been assigned to the RN and which things have been assigned to the ULPs. So that, where was that? RN, the record oxygen, you'll maybe want to go in and
correct it.
Yeah, you can click reschedule and just change the provider there.
Okay.
Oops. And I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to hit cancel. But that's a good place you can go to see who has something scheduled. So any questions on the supervisory services?
No.
Okay. All right, so further reminders, I just want to review here. We're going to do the med count, the PRN and declined meds, and meds sent out of facility. Also on your login report here, I don't know if you're very familiar with this, but this is a really good kind of communication tool. You can look and see who still has assessments that need to be completed in the system. Any MD order reminders? Do you know how to enter MD orders in the system?
Yes.
Okay. Staff supervisions that need to be created. Do you know how to enter those?
No, the administrator enters them.
Okay.
But we can go through it because I may need to help.
Well, then, yeah, usually the nurse will be doing the staff supervisions of like making sure they're checking the blood pressure correctly or making sure they're checking the blood glucose correctly.
Okay.
So if you go to a staff profile, and I'm just going to click on one of the ULPs, it will be staff supervision here. And then you can document staff supervision. You can put in here what service or task you observed. So it could be, checking blood pressure or checking blood glucose, the date that you observed them, what skills were taught or reviewed, and then you as the nurse can make any comments, if they did everything correctly or if they needed reminders. You can put comments in here. You can click if they met the expectations. You can add any notes here that you need, and then you can put when the next due date is, and usually it's due within 30 days of them providing hands-on care, and then once a year thereafter, unless they need, maybe if they're doing something incorrectly and they need to be shown again, then they would need that sooner. But then you can just choose when the next due date is and save it.
Okay. So, this is similar to like what we usually put in their files, like employee files, their performance evaluation.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that's under their profile and staff supervision. Trying to think of what else. I just want to look at that login report again. Do you want to, let's see here. So, and you can also see here if there's any pill count discrepancies when they're doing the counts. If there's anything that comes up as a discrepancy, maybe they entered the count incorrectly or something's off, you can see that here. Vital signs out of range, you can see that here. So like this one was out of range. You can see that. Weight alerts. If they forgot, if there's any missing meds, which I know you guys haven't been charting in the system yet, so it's going to show all of these right now. But when you guys start charting live, I'll have our programmer go in and remove the services and meds that were not charted on previous to you guys starting. And then if there's any missing services or chores that haven't been charted on, you'll be able to see that here too. So this login report is a really nice feature.
What about if I want to send a memo like to all staff to view it?
Sure. So if you go to today and plus more, it is new campus memo.
Yeah.
You click on that and you can put in here, you know, what type it is, the topic, whatever you want, and then your message here. And then you can also send this to additional, which you guys don't have, you guys only have the one campus now, but I mean in the system. So this will send to everybody. Once you type in your thing and click save, then on your login report, campus memos, this is where it will show. And I just want to look, if I click manage, I want to look and see who can see the campus memos. Okay, so we do have everyone listed, perfect. You as the nurse and anybody that is in administration can set up to receive alerts on any of these things. If you wanted to be alerted if there was an incident that was put in that you need to review. Are you familiar with how to review incidents in the system?
We can go through it again.
Okay, so the staff will enter the first incident, and then you would come here to clinical and incidents, and then you would click view reported incidents. It would have them listed and it will say needs review, and you'll click into that and you can review and make comments or edit any of the information that was entered, and you know, make any changes that you need to.
Okay.
But if you wanted to receive alerts, you would come up here under settings. Oh, and it looks like I would need to turn that on for you. Do you want to receive alerts
Yes.
like on your phone via email or text message, or not at this time?
Email is good.
Okay, let me turn that on for your campus here. Okay, so when you log into the system, I'll have you come up here and hover over your name and then click on settings. It'll bring you to this page, and then you can click I would like to receive alerts, and then you can choose email, and it will have, if you have your email listed in your profile, which we can look and see if it is, and then you would click save there. What email would you like to have entered here?
Can put Lydia, Lydia, at a helping hand senior.com. Can we put 2 emails?
It only allows for one.
Oh, okay. Because I thought people would also
Is
have.
the one you would like on there?
Let's put the info one, so that just in case maybe I've missed it out, someone can be like, hey, info.
Okay, the info, so each email address can only be used once. So if another staff member has that already listed,
Okay.
you wouldn't be able to use that.
Okay, then that's fine.
Okay. All right, so then when you log in, you'll want to, like I said, go to support, or I'm sorry, go to settings, click to receive alerts, and then you can choose email, click save, and then you'll go up under fax, print to the login report, and then you can click manage login report, and then enable alerts, and you can choose, you can drag and drop which ones you want to be set up as your alerts.
Okay.
Like if you want incidents, pill count discrepancies, if you want to be alerted to missing meds or services, whatever ones you want, and then you will have that listed there. And then the alerts go out once an hour, so you will receive an alert via email every hour until it has been resolved.
Okay.
Any other questions? I know Jama was asking me yesterday why the medications were not showing up as being in a dosage box. And I did ask the team, and they said that it won't show up as being in a dosage box until the nurse goes in and does the review and setup of the medications. So once you go in and review, click that you've reviewed the setup for those medications, then it will start showing as if they are in a dosage box like they are.
Okay.
All right, well, I will, if you don't have any more questions, I can let you go, and I will get those tasks created for you, and I can email you when those have been completed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if you ever have any questions, you feel free to email or call us. We are always happy to help.
You're welcome.
All right, have a great day.
You too, Bridget.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.